Welcome back to NanoCruising. I'm your host, Stefan Marceau. In today's episode, we talked with Jono Dunnett. Jono is a windsurfer, yes, I said windsurfer, who has circumnavigated Britain and Europe. So let's get to it. Hi, Jono. Thank you for joining NanoCruising. I came across your book, In the Balance, came on sale, I guess, on Amazon, and I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. I got to read that. I didn't know anything, but I read the whole book, and it was so captivating, and it was not just technical, it was also very interesting from what you saw and the people and environmental. So I love that. So let's first, I guess, start with the background and technical side, because it's pretty amazing. So I have to tell people what Jono is doing is he sails around Britain in a windsurfer, including all his gear and camping gear and all that. So that's just amazing. So if you can tell us about, I guess, a little bit first about your background, how you got into windsurfing, and then what inspired you to start doing the Britain around the Britain challenge.
So yeah, I started sailing as a kid at local sailing club in a topper dinghy, which is just a simple plastic kind of indestructible boat. And I got it into that, and every weekend we'd be down at the coast and sailing the local club. And then I've got a younger brother, and he actually learned to windsurf before me because he got into it. I also thought, hey, that looks cool. I want to do that as well. And so we learned, and then we were a kind of a group of four of us, all windsurfing together in all our holidays and free time. Yeah. And I also got into the racing side of things, which is on these longer boards called race boards. And most people who are active windsurfers, they tend to sail just in stronger winds on smaller boards. But if you're into the race board side, then you also sail in lighter winds. So it's more like a boat in that respect. But it's good. It's got good sort of performance in light winds. It's got a longer waterline length, but it also planes like a kind of short board when it's windier. It's good for the light winds and moderate winds, and you can sail it in strong winds, but it's a bit of a boat in strong winds, really. Yeah. So a race board is that sort of concept of board, really, but it's a kind of more race tuned version with foot straps and adjustable mast track and things like that. Yeah.
Right. Our show is called NanoCruising, so you're really the ultimate nano cruiser. I think that's the smallest I've seen. So this is great. So what made you want suddenly to do the Around Britain challenge, the first one? So
I'd done some racing, and that had involved going around different parts of the country. And one of the four friends, his parents had a camper van, and I'd jump in the back of that with them, and we'd go off and see different parts of the country. And on the sort of the long journeys, driving to and from events, I'd kind of dream about, what about if we actually sailed all the way around the UK? And I spent quite a long time kind of thinking about it.
Is this doable, right? You're thinking, is that doable, and what does it entail, right?
Is that and at the time, the only my imagination of how you could do it would be with some sort of land-based support. But it kind of first of all, my mate didn't want to do it, and then so it became just a dream that kind of got forgotten, or sort of pushed away. And then I went to work at a sailing centre in Menorca, and I was there, 15 years or more doing that, and I was living out there. And then I had a kind of messy few years with relationships and things, and so I found myself back in the UK, pretty kind of low on enthusiasm for life, and the thing that kind of the only kind of thing that really motivated me was this idea to windsurf around the UK, kind of came back to me, and
right.
And so I just decided, well, I've got the opportunity. Why don't I give it a go? And also, technology had moved on, so that you had kind of maps on phones, and and you could kind of make it safe with EPIRBs and things like that.
Right.
So I realised that I didn't need support, and also I think I'd just sort of matured enough to sort of come to terms with the idea that okay, I'm going to have to do this on my own.
Right.
So I did.
You're on your own, but you've got real community support around you. Everybody that follows you, it sounds like everywhere you go, there's people waiting for you and helping you along and feeding you and hiding your board and guesting you for overnight, hosting you and so on, right?
Loads of contacts. Yeah, and also I got quite good at sort of making websites and things like that. So I made a website where people could put a pin on the map and offer support along the way.
Right.
And not really knowing if it would take off or if it would be a complete flop. But in fact, it did work really well, and lots of people did put a pin in the map. And so there was lots of support along the way, and then there's once the ball gets rolling, then lots of sort of spontaneous things happen as well.
Right.
So and everywhere I stopped, I found that people were really supportive and helpful, and I just found sort of the human side in everybody, and
that's nice to see, isn't it? Can you tell us about, I guess we'll first start with the technical side. How do you carry all that on a board? A 10-foot board, I'm guessing, maybe a little longer, I guess a longer board, right? You're doing?
Yeah, so it's a 3.8 meter board.
So how do you pack all that? How do you make sure it stays dry? And I know you're even using your phone as you're doing that. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I kind of experimented with various things, and I found out that it was particularly the Round Britain board and Round Europe board. It was much better to carry weight at the back because the nose of the board sort of bounces around a lot, and also is a problem if it submarines, whereas the back of the board was a good place. And so I found a watertight barrel, and I just put everything I needed in there. For Round Britain, I went very minimalist indeed, and I only had the barrel on the board and a small little waterproof dry bag rucksack on my back.
And you improved that on the European tour.
And on the European thing, I needed more capacity for carrying gear, so I also made a kind of spray deck thing for the front and stuck another dry bag under there. But the problem with that was that when you do spear the nose through waves, it causes the nose to go down even more. So for the Japan trip, I've changed it a bit, and I've gone for a kind of wave piercing deflector.
Really? Okay. Wow.
And that's worked really, really well.
Can you tell us how you take some breaks?
Yeah, well, it depends on the point of sailing. If you're going kind of across the wind or upwind, then you can use the harness. And then if you can use the harness, then you can have a hand partially free to access pockets and eat. And
so you're harnessed to the mast. Is that what you mean?
So you have a harness which is like a hook just near your belly button. Let's say a loop of rope on the boom, and you just hook into that.
Okay.
So it kind of acts like a kind of a middle hand or a third hand or something.
Right.
So which frees up another one hand to kind of do stuff from time to time. Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, that's going upwind. Yeah, you can use the harness, but very often going downwind, you don't use the harness because it's too wobbly. If it's light winds. Yeah, you do if it's windy, but if it's really light, then you tend not to. You tend to sail not with the harness and just sort of continually kind of slightly gently pumping the sail, which kind of so the sail acts a bit like the stick for an acrobat on a wire or something.
Right.
It gives you the balance. And sailing on open water is generally very different to sailing on enclosed bay.
Right. You're in wide open ocean a lot of time with big swells and all, right?
Yeah, swells sort of bouncing off cliffs and things, or bouncing off harbour walls, and it makes it all pretty lumpy a lot of the time and uncomfortable. Which when I was a novice at this, it was kind of very uncomfortable, and now I'm kind of much more used to it and just get on with it. But, yeah.
Can you tell us how you prepare physically, because it's very physically demanding and probably mentally as well for these extensive windsurfing expeditions?
Yeah, well, I mean, the learning was mostly in around Britain, and that was a baptism by fire, really, because I didn't really know what to expect.
You actually invented a sport, I think. So,
well, I didn't quite. There's a few others. There's a guy who went around Ireland, called Rob Henschel, who I did subsequently meet, and he was a bit of an inspiration for me because I'd heard rumours that he'd done it. He'd done this style of windsurfing, and he'd been around Ireland, and I didn't know if it was true. Cruising by raceboard, yeah. I actually found out it was true, and I met him. So that's a nice little sub story there. Yeah, so he was the inventor, really, of this kind of extended.
I've only really read the around Europe, which is, I think you have you have a Guinness record for this, obviously, 15,000 kilometers. Tell me some of the good moments and some of the tougher moments.
I mean, the strongest memories, let's say, I mean, one of the most formative, I guess, moments of the journeys was going around Land's End on the Britain journey.
That's right. That would be a big milestone, right?
It's a very difficult bit of water, and I'm from Clacton on the east coast, which is generally pretty flat. It's got the tide coming and going from the Thames and currents, but it doesn't get ocean swells or anything like that. And Land's End certainly does pick up a lot of swell, and it's a complicated bit to sail. And I headed out there in kind of poor visibility, and then I got to the kind of tip, and then got the more North Atlantic swell coming in, and the current swirling around, and the wind around high ground is, as you know, is so disturbed. And you get these dead patches where you just haven't got any wind, and you have to get. And if you're going around a big peninsula, at some point there's going to be some area where the wind is just playing games with you.
Yes.
And that's my first experience of a really kind of difficult headland, a combination of all the difficult things coming together at the same time, and then the swell. The knowledge that there's a kind of a big swell running, which means I can't go in where I thought I could get in, which means I've just got to keep going. And then where the ocean swells are moving you about, and you feel like you haven't got any wind, you're not even confident that you're making any progress in the right direction.
But you can sort of make your own wind, although it's a lot of work to do the pumping, I believe, right?
Yeah, you can, yeah. But when you've got the big ocean swells just moving you about all the time, it's incredibly unstable on a windsurfer. On any boat. That actually kind of traumatized me.
Oh, really?
For several weeks afterwards, which was really interesting experience.
Were you thinking of quitting? That bad, eh?
I don't think I was, but I mean, I was actually kind of, and then after that sail for at least a month afterwards, I was. Like every day, I was like hypersensitized to the kind of fear of what might happen. It was, and then I had a few crossings coming up after that. I crossed from Devon to Wales, and then I crossed from Wales to Ireland, and until I got that crossing to Ireland done, I was struggling psychologically. And then after that, I started to kind of settle down and process it all. Certainly interesting, and that I've had other scary moments, obviously, but since that Land's End one, it was that Land's End one that took a long time to process, and now I can kind of enjoy it more quickly after the event, and it doesn't affect me sort of long term like it used like that one did.
You still, I know from talking to you, you still respect the elements big time, and you plan your weather patterns. You're not, you still have to respect how you do this.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be totally aware that you're on a boat, on a craft, which is, it's a plaything. It's not designed for. It's not a ship for open ocean. So so you have to be very careful that where you take it and when you take it, and there's certain bits that you just you just got to wait for the right day. That's when you can sneak around quickly and then get to safety. Yeah.
And you do need to rest. You do need to rest physically too, I take it. Too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what about the Europe journey? What were the biggest challenges you faced in that 15,000 kilometers adventure?
The most difficult psychologically was the ocean-facing coasts. So going down the west coast of France, north coast of Spain, and around Galicia. That was all difficult. And again, it's the swells, because if it's genuinely windy, the sea is just too wild to be out there. It's difficult. The swells block the wind. If it's not very windy, and you've got swells coming, more or less to the top of the mast, at sea level, you haven't actually got very much wind. So it's very, very wobbly, and you're getting moved around a lot. So yeah, again, it was picking the days, and it settled. Yeah, the coast of Galicia was particularly difficult because I was kind of doing that in springtime, I guess, sort of before the summer weather had come. And there's some quite high ground around Galicia as well, so you have to give things a big wide berth, and you have sort of minimum distances where you've got to get to a safe entrance again. Yeah, and again, there's the odd day when sailed when given the choice again, I'd go and drink coffee all day rather than sail.
Right.
In fact, I kind of got lucky, and my timing was such that the summer trade winds, the Azores High came in, and summer trade winds came, and I just got a run of northerly winds and not too windy, not too big seas, and I could just blast down that.
Those are the good moments you remember.
And that was really interesting from a sort of sail powered NanoCruising perspective, in that it was kind of like you kind of saw, okay, so this is where the big expeditions from history kind of went off from. They waited for these conditions at the start of summer to then head off and cross the Atlantic and do or head down to South of Africa and stuff. So that was really interesting to sort of think, okay, so of course I struggled in spring, because I was trying to go too early,
right.
And then I needed to wait for the conditions, and then you can go, But we're so used now with motors and engines, and we just overpower nature, and
we don't respect that anymore, I find,
and just ignore it.
Yeah.
But if you're actually sailing, you have to go with what nature allows.
And you still get caught.
Yep.
I'm sure you still had some surprises. You never had to be rescued. I believe, right? Have you?
I'm going to find some wood to touch, but there you go.
Good boy.
I do, yeah.
Exactly. Good. Good. That's great.
And that's what I really want to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is it for today with Jono. The next episode with Jono will cover his current circumnavigation of Japan and his purposes for doing these trips. There's a lot more to cover. In the meantime, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review to help us grow and reach more cruising enthusiasts. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Join our Facebook group, NanoCruising, or visit nanocruising.com to connect with fellow cruisers and stay updated on all things NanoCruising. Thanks for your support, and as always, seize your own adventure.